Good morning. We're looking at Psalm 85, verses 10 through 13 this morning. It begins, "Mercy and truth have met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Yes, the Lord will give what is good, and our land will yield its increase. Righteousness will go before him, and shall make his footsteps our pathway." When I was reading these verses in Psalm 85, I was struck by just the beauty of the phrases. Mercy and truth meeting together, righteousness and peace kissing. It's beautiful, picturesque, poetic language. And I started to take these verses and mull them over in my head and was looking at the beauty of each one of them. Truth springing out of the earth, just wonderful pictures. And in my mind started to just lay them out onto a table. And if you take them out and you look at them and turn them over, each one stands up beautifully on its own as just a wonderful, inspiring phrase. But as you take these verses and begin to put them back together and assemble them back together and take a step back from them, you see that when they're together, they give us a picture that's greater than just the sum of the parts, that there is a whole here that we can appreciate as well. And that's what I want us to look at this morning, the whole picture of what these verses are describing. So let's take a look at the first one. Mercy and truth have met together, righteousness and peace have kissed. Well, when we talk about these characteristics, a certain person comes to mind, and it's not too hard to figure out who that is, right? Mercy and truth have met together. In the Gospel of John, it says, "For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ." And the idea of grace and truth, grace and mercy are very linked words. This could give us that same description. Mercy and truth came through Jesus Christ. So we see mercy and truth being part of the aspects of who Jesus Christ is. Righteousness and peace have kissed. In Acts chapter 3, verse 14, when Peter's speaking, he refers to Jesus Christ as the righteous one. And we know that, again, part of the aspect of Jesus' character is that he was sinless. He was holy, pure, and righteous. So he's the righteous one. And in Isaiah, the messianic description contains this wonderful phrase calling the Messiah who would come the Prince of Peace, right? Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. So all of these characteristics melded and blended together form a picture and a description of Jesus Christ. So verse 10 shows us Jesus, mercy and truth meeting together, righteousness and peace kissing. And then it says that this truth, Jesus Christ, who described himself as the way, the truth, and the life, this truth shall spring out of the earth. And I thought that was a wonderfully interesting saying, because in Matthew chapter 12, Jesus says about himself, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Jesus Christ predicting his death, his burial, and eventually his resurrection. And truth now, in the person of Jesus Christ, will rise and spring out of the earth. And the righteous shall look down from heaven. God will see it from heaven, looking down on the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ. And God, it says, will give what is good. And the Lord will give what is good. In John 3:16, it says, "God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believeth him should not perish, but have everlasting life." God giving what is good, God giving Jesus to the people, and our land will yield its increase. In 1 Corinthians, it says, "But now Christ is risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who are fallen asleep." That Jesus' resurrection will yield a righteous crop to the glory of God, that he will be the first of many who will come. So God giving us Jesus will lead to an increase that comes from his work upon the cross. Righteousness will go before him, and he shall make his footsteps our pathway. In Hebrews chapter 2, verse 10, It talks about Jesus as being the captain of their salvation. And let's look at this whole verse. For it was fitting for him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons to glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. He shall make his footsteps our pathway. Jesus Christ is the one who goes before. He's our captain. He's the one who blazes the trail before us. And because Jesus Christ died upon the cross, took our sins upon himself, paid the full penalty, taking the wrath of God upon himself, and died in our place, and then rose again, he has then marked out the way that man who is sinful can be reunited with God in heaven. And the gulf that was between those two places, man being lost and God being holy in heaven, the gulf that was between those two places was filled in by the work of Jesus Christ. And he constructed a pathway by which we could come from our sin to his holiness. And Jesus Christ was the one who walked that path. He's the one who forged that path. He is the one who is that path. He is the way that which we go. He is the truth. He is the life. So you look at these verses, and what we see is Jesus being brought out before our eyes, and his resurrection springing up from the earth, God seeing it and looking down from heaven, giving the Son, which is good, which then yields a great crop of righteousness in all those who will follow Jesus Christ, and going before us and making that pathway for us into heaven. And I'm just astounded that the more I look into these verses, the more parallels I see in the ministry, in the work, in the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And how God put us all together, all of these wonderful truths, all this wonderful story in just these 4 verses here for us to enjoy. I'd like you to think about this today. Think about the beauty of these verses. Think about the beauty of the plan of God. Think about how much he gave so that we could find a place in heaven for ourselves. And when you do, see if you couldn't stop yourself from just shouting out praises to God. Because the more that we see about his goodness, the more we just want to break out in praise. Have a great day, guys. Bye.